Hey there, my name's Andrew and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about virtual staging. So in this video, I'm going to cover just some basics, how virtual staging works, how much it costs, and some tips and tricks along the way. So the ListingAI virtual staging tool, it looks like this, but first let's do a bit of a feature overview. So on the features page, we have the three main features that we support in the concept of virtual staging. The first one is furniture removal, which as you can see here is just allowing you to clear a space out. The next one is virtual staging, which is once you've got a clear space, being able to stage it with alternative furniture. And the final one is virtual renovation, which is really just about helping people understand the what-if scenarios and allows you to completely redesign a space in a new style. But let's focus on furniture removal, virtual staging, and touching up photos, and we'll do a little bit on Twilight photos in this video. I'll also touch on the pricing real quick. So the pricing of virtual staging is actually pretty affordable, especially compared to some of the alternatives of the past. So on our monthly plan, which is the professional plan here, this is the best one if you're going to do virtual staging. It gives you 300 credits a month. Now, what is a credit? The way our system works is it's 1 credit every time you generate an image and 2 if you accept it. People often complain, but what if I don't like the image? Well, unfortunately, we have to pay regardless of whether your taste aligns with it or not. And unfortunately, sometimes the AI will produce some unusual things. We're trying our best to keep that cost as low as possible, which is why we're only billing you 1 credit in those instances, and you're only paying the full 3 credit cost when you actually get something you can accept. So this is the best plan to go for by far because it gives you a good chunk of credits and it's going to give you a pretty low cost. If you're doing high volume, we do have a higher plan here, gets you 900 credits, but for the average agent, the $36 a month plan is perfect. If you do find yourself going over that, you can go to our one-time plans and top up for $25 to get an extra 150 credits each time. The only other alternative that I would suggest generally would be to go for the yearly plan. It gets you 1 year of credits up front, which is handy because if you have a lumpy listing load, so for example, you've got a listing this month and you got 3 listings next month and you got no listings the month after, you're not bound to that 300 credit per month window. You still have the equivalent of 300 credits per month, 3,600, but you can use them in any frequency that you want. So you can use more in one month and less in another, and you don't need to worry about them expiring. Unfortunately, on the monthly plans, they do not carry over, but on the yearly plans, you've got a full year to use your credit allotment. So that is another great option, and it is 25% cheaper. But generally speaking, this $36 a month plan is perfect for most agents. I don't recommend going essentials. It only gives you 15 credits. It's really designed for people who just want our other features. And like I said, experts just for people who want high volume, like teams, etc. Okay, so let's get into it. So to get to that virtual staging tool, after you've created an account, you can just go into your account menu here and click virtual staging. Alternatively, from your dashboard, there is the listing library here, which will show all the past listings you've ever uploaded to ListingAI and their photos. And you can click new image if you want to load something new. Or you can create a listing, any listing that you've been working on. And in the process of uploading the photos, if I just upload 3 sample photos here, after you've created your listing, I'm going to say I'm working on a listing description. Let's say I was originally working on a listing description. I work away here. My photos are going to show up here. So I can go straight for the virtual staging tool from in here. And this is handy, and I don't really want to go into a lot of detail because it's not the purpose of this video, but once you stage a video and you've made a website for your listing, those will be the images used on your website. So by uploading it as part of a listing, all the tools integrate together. Same with social content. You're creating social content related to your listing, and you upload a photo and you stage it. Again, that'll be what's used in your social post. So anyway, let's get working on this. I'm going to just go straight into the virtual staging tool and upload some photos manually. Okay, so we're going to upload. I'm going to upload initially just some exterior photos of a property. Let's get some good ones here for today. Okay, so the first photo I'm going to start with is going to be this one here. So this is an exterior shot of a house, and one of the most common things people want to do with a virtually staged photo is actually, an exterior shot is to edit the exterior to be a Twilight shot. So I have some settings that are predefined here. I'm going to just walk through them all from the very beginning so you can see how this is set up. Okay, so I'm going to say I want to do twilight dusk because this is going to be the time of day that I would like my photo to be. I'm going to tell it to preserve exterior light options, which means that it'll just leave the exterior lights as they are. It may illuminate them, but it won't add any new ones. And I can choose the color of the sky that I want. You can let the AI automatically pick it, or you can explicitly state one that makes sense for you. I'm going to go for purple. You can go for the golden hour option, which will give you more kind of evening as opposed to, more like afternoon to evening as opposed to twilight shots, but I prefer twilight. You can also, if this was a winter shot, for example, you could change it to summer or fall colors. You can revise the landscaping here to make the trees look more luscious or refresh the mulch or grass. You could adjust the sky. Maybe it's a cloudy day and you want a clear day. I am going to ask for a clear day in this case. And then you could also change the lighting direction. So if you want a rim glow, I really do like the rim glow, and we'll add that as a later step. And if you had a pool, you could clean up the water if there were leaves in it, remove glares, or add lights. So let's, I'm going to just make sure that we're not doing anything too crazy here. I'm going to leave it just as these settings. This looks pretty good to me, I think. I'm not going to make the grass green. The grass can stay as it is. And I'm going to hit continue. So there'll be a summary of the changes I'm making here, which is I want twilight, purple sky, preserve the existing lights, and a clear sky. And I'm not going to change anything else. And I'm going to click generate. That'll cost 1 credit. I could do this in our faster mode, which will just give you an HD photo. That is perfectly fine, but it's probably really only useful for web quality. If you want something that's for print quality or above, you're going to want at least 2K. These do take a little bit longer to generate. You can go all the way up to 4K, and I would definitely recommend this if you're doing print, but 4K is going to cost you twice as much. It's 2 credits to generate, 4 credits to accept. If I go for 1 or 2K, it'll be 1 credit to generate, 2 credits to accept. So let's give it a go. Now, the fun thing about virtual staging is you never know what you're going to get until you get it. And I say this not to talk the product down or discourage you at all, but it is something that I think is important to set expectations around, that you're probably going to want to experiment. And you may find that you get results you don't like. And that's kind of okay. You've got to be able to be okay with accepting that this is a DIY tool and it's going to require some revisions. So I actually don't mind this. This looks pretty good. I think it's nice. Gave me the purple sky, turned on the exterior lights. So I'm going to accept that. That's a good shot. However, I want to talk about some of the other options that we talked about there in the step 2 previously. So some of the things we did before were, these are the settings we did, just twilight and sky color. Let's change the lighting. So let's make it backlit. So rim glow. Front lit would mean that the sun is behind the camera. So the front of the property is lit. Backlit would mean that the sun is behind the property, pointing towards the camera. And you can also do a side lighting option as well. We previously said don't change it, but let's do the rim glow. That's the only change I want to introduce here. And I'm just going to do 1K during a demo. I want things to go quickly, so I'm going to just leave it at 1K. 2K is really what you probably want to be working at in most scenarios, but we'll just leave it at 1 for now. So once this generates, you should see it should look very much the same as the previous photo, but we're gonna, it does look a bit funny when it just suddenly pops in there, but the purpose of this is to make it look more like the exterior of the property is being lit from behind. So you're gonna see it really just show up as if there's a sunlight coming from behind the property. I honestly don't love the way this came out in this photo. Sometimes it looks really good. I think in this case it kind of looks average. It almost just highlight the edge. But again, this is a good example of you're sometimes going to get results you love with AI, and sometimes you're going to get results you just don't love. This isn't my taste. It might be yours, but I'm going to reject it for that reason. So this has cost me 3 credits to generate this image here, and now only 1 credit to generate this image that I've rejected. And it's left this as what's described as my key image. If this was done as part of a listing, the key image means that's the one that's going to get used in the photos. So although this was my original, and this would have been what showed up on my website if I used ListingAI to make a landing page. And this is by no means a requirement that you use ListingAI to make a landing page. But if you did, this would initially be the photo that you upload and therefore the one that gets used. However, this is the one that later is the one we've revised it to and we accept it, so it becomes the key image. So that's what's going to show up on the website. Something really important to be mindful of when doing virtual staging is compliance. So we've created this series of compliance pages, which are accessible through this link here. They're also can be found on our blog. But if I hit this pages, you're going to get our compliance guide. And this compliance guide asks, it gives you a lot of information about what virtual staging is, your options, and then the ability to look up virtual staging rules for your particular area. So for example, I'm in Toronto, Canada, so Ontario. Ontario does have some specific rules, and that's why it's showing up as the first one, because that's where I am. So I can click on this, or I can just say Ontario, and it's going to take me to the page that's all about virtual staging in Ontario, which in this case is going to talk about TRESA and REBA, which are the two governing acts and bodies that cover virtual staging compliance in Ontario. It's going to give you some tips on how to stay compliant, and it's going to give me some template disclosures that I could use in my images, on my social media posts, in my MLS to make sure that I'm compliant and not misleading anyone. And then there's some useful sources here, which basically the sources we've obtained our information for to make this article. So you can go along and verify everything we've written. Now, as this guide will tell you, always consult your broker. Consult your own legal counsel. We are not giving you this advice to replace your broker or legal counsel or your broker record if you're in a region that uses one of those. The purpose of this article is to try to give you as much information as possible so that you don't make obvious mistakes. And honestly, the guidance around virtual staging is pretty similar in all regions. You can pretty much do it anywhere, but with disclosures. And so on that note, it's really important to talk about this watermark detail. So you can see in the top left, it says AI edited. Now this is a watermark that you can optionally add using our tool to make people who are viewing your images understand that this is an AI edited image. And this is typically the type of disclosure that is required in most regions. And you can customize it. So you can move it between the top, bottom, left, right of your image. And you can change the text as well. So you can type in whatever you want there to say AI edited, or this was edited with AI. You could mention our tool name if that's what you're required to do in your region. Or alternatively, if you don't feel that you need to disclose what you're doing for whatever reason, you can turn the watermark off. Maybe you want to add the watermark in your own way, or the site you're uploading to remarks that it is AI edited and you don't need our watermark. Either way, we give you the ability to watermark it so you can stay compliant. So that is generally a very important compliance element. So now you can download this image as a PNG or a JPEG. Different MLSs and different portals require different file types. Most will accept a JPEG, some require a PNG, some accept both. So you can switch between that by using this little down arrow, and you can hit the download button just to grab your file at the end. Now, that's virtual staging in a nutshell, but there's some more things we can do here that I like to point out to people. So let's do a few alterations, which would definitely not be something that would be compliant, but let's do it for the purpose of expressing what the tool can do. So one of the things I like to really point out is the ability to erase things. So to erase things, I'm going to do that again so you can see. You hit the change button in step 2. There's this more tools option here, and then AI erase. So you can change the size of your brush, which is the size of the circle that we're working with here. And I'm going to erase this hose wheel. Maybe the seller's taking it with them. Let's say that's what's going to happen. So you're going to take it out to not mislead anyone. And now you can regenerate the photo from that step. Now this isn't regenerating it from the one we rejected with the rim glow. This is regenerating it from the one that we see on screen right now. So now when this comes back to us, that hose wheel is gone. See that? It's pretty cool. So you don't need to do anything crazy. You just tell it, get rid of it, and it's gone. Now, similar, I could paint things in. So again, back to step 2, change, more tools, AI in paint. Now, what could we add? Let's, I feel like people are going to have some really good suggestions, and I'm totally blanking on a good one right now, but let's go and add some shrubbery to this section here. Now I recognize there isn't shrubbery in this photo, so this might be considered misleading. I think I definitely would consider it misleading. However, for the purpose of demonstration, it'll give you the idea of the sort of changes you can make. Now, this is really useful when it comes to interior shots. Maybe you want to change a coffee table or a vase, or you want to move a chair or remove a chair or change a coffee table. whatever it is, these erase and in-paint tools can be used together to come up with results that look really good and give you that ability to make those final customizations. So there you go. Now I've got my shrubbery exactly where I asked for it. So I think this is, it's important to know that we started here, we went here, then here, and then here. So you can make a lot of alterations and make your photos look wonderful with this tool. This is just an example. So let's start over with a new image now. So to start over, we can just simply go at the top here, click change, and the tool resets. Actually, I'm going to do it my way. And now I can drag in a new photo. Let's drag in this one here. Okay, so this is, I'm going to say this is probably the living room of this house. Now, it could be a different room, but let's say it's the living room. I want to virtually stage it. And now it's going to ask me what type of room is this. So this is your ability to, you could decide you want to stage this as a bedroom, but I'm going to say it's a living room. And I want to use a modern style, and I want to go continue. Now I can put specific details in here if I want. So maybe, for example, I could mention that I want to add drapes. So add red drapes to the window. So that's going to happen in addition to staging the room, or in the process of staging the room. You could also make specific notes about furniture, brown leather couch. And now I'm going to click generate. So it should stage the room in a modern way with a brown leather couch and red drapes on the window. And this is a really powerful tool because it's extremely cost effective. It's pretty fast, and it gives you control to what the end result is. I love doing this in particular for rentals. Aha, I'm glad it did this. So this is a great example of what AI is really annoying at. Sometimes AI will completely decide to go wild and change the perspective of your image. Now, this is something that we see as a bug. It should not happen. In this case, it has not actually done a terrible job, but we don't really know that this window looks this way. Like, is that what the room looks like? Maybe. The rest of the room looks pretty accurate. The doorways are all good. The hallway's good. I mean, we can't guarantee that this final door in the hallway is really there. So I'm going to reject this, and I'm just going to do it again. That is the type of result that, generally speaking, I would discourage anyone from using. But I love that it came up because this happens, and I'm going to tell you it's not extremely common that it happens all the time. But there are certain photos that this will just happen with all the time. And why? I can't tell you, not because I don't want to, but because I just don't know. But this is something that we're aware of and we're going to work on over time. So now you can see I've just done literally the same thing. I haven't changed anything, but I've got a way better result. I couldn't have written that. So I've got my red drapes, I got my brown leather couch, and I've got modern furniture. So great example. I actually like this. This is good. I'm going to accept it. Now the only issue I have with this photo is I would prefer a TV on that wall. I don't want that picture there. So let's change that. So I'm going to go back. Step 2, more tools, AI in Paint. I'm going to go over the top of this. And I'm going to say TV mounted on wall. And I'm going to generate that. And that should get rid of the photo and replace it with a TV. I mean, AI can do some funny things sometimes. Maybe it'll put a TV over the top of the photo that's already there, the painting that's there. But generally speaking, this sort of alteration will just work, and we won't need to go and redo it a bunch of times. But yeah, it looks pretty good. That's kind of what I hope for. So now it's clear that this is a logical living room setup. I would believe that that makes sense. I don't think anyone's going to really object to this type of structure. There's logical walking ways here for the hallway. That's where I would put the couch, away from the wall. Yeah, this feels like a staged photo to me. Now, the only things we could still do to this photo that I might consider would be, you could change what's on the table here. You could maybe change what's on the TV stand underneath here. Or we could change the lighting. So let's actually look at changing the lighting, because I feel like the lighting in this one maybe can be enhanced. So there are a few different ways you can do this. First of all, in More Tools, you can change the colors. You can adjust the colors yourself. You've got these color alteration bars. You can change the contrast. Now, this may not be what you want to do. This may not give you the results you want. It's definitely not looking the way I want. But you may have a photo that you're just like, it's a little bit dark. Let's just brighten it up a bit. Okay, yeah, that's better. Maybe, you know, the contrast is too high or too low. Okay, I'm just going to adjust the contrast. Like to turn up the saturation a bit. Okay, yeah, that's starting to feel better. So now you can play with these yourself. However, you can also, actually before I go into the also that I was going to say, if this is an image that was came in rotated incorrectly, you can adjust the rotation in here. You can also flip it vertically or flip it horizontally. So you've got all these controls in here as well. The thing I want to show you is scene enhancement again. Now, we're obviously not changing the time of day or the season or adding grass or the sky because there's no sky in this room. We're not changing the lighting direction. I just want to balance the exposure. So that's the only button I'm going to turn on in this one. And I'm going to click continue on that. So now you can see the summary just says balance exposure, and I'm going to tell it to give it a shot. And we'll see what we get. Hopefully we get slightly better formatting of the colors here, and the room just pops a bit better, but we'll be able to see. This is not something you need to do to every photo. I just found this one was a little bit dark for me. I'm not hugely in love with it. Yeah, see, it hasn't actually made a huge difference there. There are some small adjustments. The glare on the lamp is a bit different, but generally speaking, it actually looks pretty similar. So you know what? I don't think it's worth accepting that. I'm just going to reject it. I don't think I need that. I'm going to try one more time because I'm curious to see if we can do better. But sometimes the AI is just going to say, look, for this photo, it's as good as it can get, and it's not going to change it. But if you do have a photo that's particularly dark or particularly bright, or something is not quite right about it, this balance exposure option is a great way to come up with a slightly higher outcome. Yeah, again, AI doesn't seem to be able to say it can do any better, so we're going to leave it there. Okay, fair enough. So let's do another one. This time I'm going to pick, I was going to pick a living room, but let's pick a bedroom. So this is our bedroom. So pretty basic room. The walls, very standard. I assume I am standing in the doorway. This is a tricky photo, I'm going to say, for AI, because this wall here, I'm not really sure what's going on there. It's hard to say exactly, it doesn't actually look like the same material. Maybe it is the door, just on a weird angle. That sort of thing can trip up the AI, so it's something to call out. And these glares on the wall here coming through the window, so the sun's obviously somewhere off the left shining through the window here. Sometimes things like that can result in some unusual outcomes, so let's give it a go. So I'm going to say I want a bedroom, and let's go for a bohemian style. Now I'm going to actually say I just want a single bed. I'm just going to leave it at that, single bed. No other details, so I don't want this to be like a double bed or anything like that. Kids room. So it should furnish this with a single bed and in the style of a king's room with a bohemian style. It's going to be interesting. I'm not really sure exactly how this is going to look, but it's a good example of you can give the AI prompts to help it understand what you're looking for. Bedrooms in particular, you probably want to stage them for a particular type of audience. It's a 3-bedroom house. Are you staging the bedroom as an office? Are you staging the bedroom to suggest that you may want to put your child in this room and you want to be in the other? It's an opportunity for you to guide the AI to get the outcomes you want. So now what's happening in the middle here is an interesting thing to call out. So it failed a quality check on our side. Now we try really hard to catch. Oh, that's an amazing kids room. We try really hard to catch when the AI changes things it shouldn't. And in that case, it probably did change something about the layout, and that's why it stopped. And kind of like I said, that door situation has caused something that I don't know is acceptable. It would be easier if I understood the room. I haven't been in this house myself, so it's hard to say. But generally speaking, this isn't awful. It's a bit weird, but it's not awful. But I'm going to reject it because I don't love this. I'm going to see if I can get something that makes that make a bit more sense. So I'm going to reject it. So to actually improve this and get a better outcome, first I'm going to crop that off because I think that's maybe going to keep throwing this image off. And it's important for you to know how to use the crop tool. So again, crop is under more tools. It's a crop and zoom tool. So I can just drag this blue line in here to cut that off, and I can apply that change. And now I've got a room that makes a bit more sense and it's less ambiguous for the AI. So let's see if it can do a better job. So I'm just going to say I want let's just go modern. single bed, kids room. Yeah, same thing again. Let's see what we come up with. It's important for you to try to do your best to remove any ambiguity that the images might provide to the AI. If you look at it and there's something that's tricking your eyes, you've kind of got to assume that it could be tricking the AI's eye as well. An example of something that comes up fairly often is fences around pools. I've seen fences around pools do some really weird things because the AI can't quite see through the fence sometimes. And I've looked at them myself and been like, is that a pickleball court? Is that a tennis court? Is that a pool? What's going on there? And then the AI seems to misinterpret it as well. So I think that's a way better outcome. That looks pretty reasonable. Again, I would need to understand where the door is to decide if that makes sense. If you wanted the bed on a different wall, you could definitely prompt the AI to say, like, you know, the bed has to be on the wall on the right-hand side. But I'm going to say this is acceptable. So I've now got an image I can use. So I've gone from here into here. And that looks clean. It looks nice. So I could accept that. So this is a high level of how virtual staging works. As you can tell, you're going to burn through a few credits. In the process of doing these 3 images, I've used about 10 credits per image on average. You know, so that's to suggest on your 300 credit plan, if you're being as fussy as I am, you're experimenting as much as I am, you might get about 30 images a month staged this way. So they're not super expensive. It's definitely much cheaper than the traditional options. But you can also be less fussy and you can accept things on a more ready basis. My objective here has been to kind of push the tool and show you things it can and can't do. You may want to come up with a standard series of designs that you're happy to work with. You may have pre-cropped your images so that any ambiguity is removed. You may not want to experiment with settings around room glow like I did. So once you kind of know what you want and you're doing it consistently, it's not unusual that I see people produce their images for about 5 credits on average. But you can definitely spend a lot of credits if you're going through and being quite fussy about how you want these images to come out. Before I sign off on this, a few things I really want to call out. First of all, we love getting feedback. So if there's anything that doesn't work for you and you think we can do something about it, please hit this little chat option down the right here. That will go to one of us. I'm very keen to hear from you. And then similar, on our website, we have a contact page. And there's a series of phone numbers here that you can call. And like I said, I'm in Toronto, Canada. But you can call our US number or our toll-free number that's toll-free North America wide. And we're here Monday through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Alternatively, you can send us an email or, like I said, chat to us. Finally, just on the virtual staging side of things, this is a tool that's going to constantly evolve. This is pretty new to us. We started doing this in October of 2025, and it's going to keep getting better. It's improved substantially in that time. Some of the things that are coming that come up and get asked of us a lot are, is there an option for batch staging? So batch staging would mean that you can upload multiple images at once and apply your settings and send them off. And the answer is yes, we are going to introduce batch staging, and it will be cheaper than this staging form. Batch staging will take up to 24 hours. It's just going to be run on a lower priority compute cluster. So it'll come back to you, but it'll take longer to come back to you. But you're going to save money for doing that. And the second thing that's going to come is, and this, I can't predict the timeline on this, but it definitely is coming, and what we're calling it is stable generation. So a common question would be, you stage a bedroom like this, and you're like, oh, I've got a picture of the room from the opposite angle, from the corner of this room looking the other way. And you go and you stage it, use the same settings, but the bed's on the different side now, or it's a different style bed, or that elephant isn't there, it's replaced with a giraffe. And I'm going to do that. That sounds like a fun thing to do while I'm talking. But you can, you cannot recreate the room. I don't want a giraffe. I want a monkey, large monkey. You can't get the exact same outcome as you got last time. And that's a bit of a problem. I hope it understands I want a stuffed monkey. It doesn't put a real monkey in the room. That'd be pretty funny. But you may not be able to get the exact same outcome. And that's going to be a problem because that starts to make these photos look really fake to your buyers who are browsing them. Unfortunately, we just don't have an answer around that today. Oh yeah, it's a real monkey. That is not helpful. We're going to ask for a large monkey. I love that it did that. A large stuffed toy monkey. There we go. important to be explicit with what you want with AI, because it will misinterpret you. I love the idea of there being a monkey in your house. So stable generation will give you the ability to define a layout and use the same furniture from different angles of the same room. That is coming, so if it's something you're looking for, keep an eye out for it. We'll put an announcement in the app when that comes. So with that, I'm done. Let's wait for this large stuffed monkey to appear. There you go. That looks way better. That's what I wanted. So now I've got a large stuffed monkey in my room. Much better than this guy. Okay, thanks for watching. I'm Andrew. This is Listing AI, and I hope this has been helpful. Good luck.